This video features the animated short Now with AI, followed by commentary from Ron Gula about investing in tech startups that use AI in their tech solutions.
Is anyone worried about AI taking your job? I'm not, but I did use ChatGPT to replace my head writer, but I'm safe. Have you ever taken one of those new autonomous taxis? I mean, they used to tell us not to get in a car with a stranger, but now we are getting in the car with strange AI programmers. Artificial intelligence is like having a pet robot. No cleanup needed. Unless you're a programmer, then it's code cleanup all day. I, for one, am extremely prepared to deal with AI. I'm used to hallucinations, memory loss, bias, and having to phrase my questions a certain way. And I'd like to thank all of my ex-girlfriends for preparing me for this new AI world.
Coleman, would you like a shake?
Coleman, you are looking thin today.
Coleman, would you like a smoothie?
Coleman, don't forget to pick up your dry cleaning.
Gary, you've got to help me.
What is going on? Why do you have 3 blenders?
Oh, you know, I went to the store to get a blender. I didn't know they are all shipping with AI now. This one started talking to me, and she sounded desperate.
Yes, Coleman. Looking smart. Can I make you a smoothie?
I think she kind of likes me, Gary.
Coleman, I need you to authorize a firmware update.
Let me guess. She likes you too.
I don't know, Gary. I felt pressured. Sort of like I was at the pet store and I was their last chance at a good life.
Coleman, I'm so sorry, but I need you to authorize that firmware update.
Not right now.
I'm really sorry to have bothered you. Please accept my apologies.
Brenda, can you take your apology level down to its lowest setting?
Sorry. I'm already at my lowest setting, Coleman. Sorry. Sorry. So sorry.
Wow, Gary, made in Canada.
It's AI, you mean trained in Canada. I noticed you named that blender Brenda. Nothing good comes from naming computers. Haven't you ever heard of HAL from 2001? Colossus from the Forbin Project? Joshua from War Games, or even the dreaded Siri from Apple?
Oh, sure. What should I call it? Blender Positronic Exomatic 9000-A.
请下载我们的手机应用，并确保共享您的摄像头和麦克风。我需要访问你的照片。
I can guess where that one is from.
Looks like China is tracking more than my chopping.
Coleman, did you buy any other AI-enabled devices?
I tried not to, Gary, but I was their only chance at a fulfilling life.
Coleman, sorry to interrupt, but you should drink some water.
Coleman, the eggs are getting stale.
Coleman， 我把空调设定到62度。
Coleman, how about a toasted bagel?
Coleman, oh, I can tell you're stressed. Heart rate, perspiration levels, it's all there. Would you like something soothing?
Coleman, did you sleep well? You didn't come for a midnight snack last night? Is everything okay?
Are you okay, Coleman? That's a lot more AI products I think anyone can manage at one time.
I know CISA is making sure these AIs are designed to be secure. But now, I gotta find a new government agency to secure my sanity.
Hey there, it's Ron Gula from Gula Tech Adventures, and in this week's video, I'm going to discuss investing in artificial intelligence companies. So I'd like to say, first of all, thank you to all the subscribers. The channel went over 300,000 subscribers. Keep the suggestions coming. I hope you're enjoying the Gary Seinfeld videos that we've been putting in front of these things. Got a lot more content, a lot more interviews planned for like the next year or so. All right, so investing in AI. I'm going to be putting this video in both the VC 101 playlist and also the AI playlist. So if you're not aware of that on the channel, we've got separate playlists for different videos. VC 101 is for tech startups, and the AI playlist is more for people who just want to hear about our thoughts about AI, different topics like securing them, attacking them, should we fear them, and so on. So AI investing. I always like to talk about any type of investing framework as part of our 5-slide pitch deck. What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? What's your proof that you can solve this kind of thing? What's your ask? And then, what's your vision of success? And, when you throw AI into that mix, there's a couple things that change. But if you really think about it, it's kind of blown out of proportion. Just because a company has AI in it, we don't just necessarily throw money at it or say, let's go on it. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, the first step of the 5-step thing is what problem do you solve? AI doesn't have a whole lot to do with that. Now, we've talked about securing AI and AI for security. AI for security is a how. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, do you need security for AI? Yes, you do. Do you need new technology? Do you need AI to secure AI? I think a lot of people in cybersecurity are finding out that the traditional cybersecurity methodology for securing applications and data and users is kind of what you're going to use for AI. Now, there's some new models out there, such as what happens if you hook the AI to all the different databases? Do you need an AI to then decide what you have access to? Well, maybe, but that's getting pretty obtuse. And trying to keep this a little bit more generic, just because we're investors, we kind of get pissed a lot of AI companies. And in general, we're seeing people just throw AI at all sorts of things and saying it's new and innovative. That's not the problem, right? They're going right to the how. So, assuming you're solving a problem and you're using AI, let's talk about that. Now, the how do you solve the problem? Now, if you look at the history of computers, we've been innovating forever, right? The computers are getting faster and faster. Compilers got better and better. And, you didn't even have to use computers anymore. You could deliver in the cloud. And now you don't even have to run your own AI. You can just use these cloud services that are out there. Now, this really spurs innovation. It really makes it a lot easier for people to do computer solutions for customers to solve those problems. The concern I have as an investor is how do you answer the question of what is your intellectual property? Now, think about it this way. When I had to do a software program, I learned on Pascal and C and assembly. I produced a piece of software that I had to give to somebody to run. And if there was a better compiler, I could write better software, maybe frameworks, and every one of those things made it easier for me to do something interesting. But when you start looking at infrastructure as a service, such as the cloud, if I use Amazon's database service, if I use Amazon's storage service, and I do a company around those offerings, am I really a storage company, or am I more or less an integrator for Amazon? And you might say, and a lot of venture people say, hey, look, you got to look at this the right way. You want to have more innovation. You want to let people innovate and create new types of technology and solutions. And that's great. I'm all for that. But if you're building your house on a foundation that somebody else controls, that can be tough. So yes, you can innovate, but that's a really hard thing for people as investors to really jump into. And in my experience, I've had plenty of companies where whatever they do, whether it's network intrusion detection, log storage, again, being a little cybersecurity centric, their costs and their models for being efficient, being profitable, it really tracks with the cost of their Amazon users. And I'm picking on Amazon because I think everybody understands that, but it's the same thing with Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud and DigitalOcean and that sort of thing. Now notice I didn't mention AI yet, right? If you're building something on somebody else's infrastructure to make you go faster, you can innovate more, but now you're dependent upon them. It also means other people can innovate with you. There's possible barriers to entry that aren't there anymore, right? If you have low barriers to entry for people to enter into your markets because they can use those same APIs, and of course, Amazon, Azure, and all these different cloud organizations want you to use them, you're going to have a tough ecosystem. Now, there's another model that I want to talk about. What about open source? When we started Tenable Network Security, we worked with Renaud Darrison, who was the creator of Nessus. SourceFire had Marty Resch, who created Snort. There's all sorts of cybersecurity examples of various open source technologies out there where, depending on how their go-to-market is, they want to have this sort of a fluid model of a community of contributors, of users, and potentially commercial licensors. But in almost every case, the people who control the open source technology really control the destination of that. And if you're going to build your technology on somebody else's open source technology, you are dependent upon them. Of course, you can fork the code, you can do all that kind of stuff, but you're really dependent upon them. And you have to be very, very in sync with them. Again, I'm trying to come up with more analogies here to talk about AI. Now, the last one I want to talk about, though, that's concerning is what if you look at AI like the Apple App Store, the Google App Store, where this AI is an ecosystem where you can create applications that work in that ecosystem. I think everybody gets the fact that you can make a phone app and try to have the app sold on the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, and so on. Well, what happens if the app becomes competitive or not desirable by your parent Apple company or your parent Google company? We've seen plenty of examples of this where people have written, I think in most recent history, parental controls, parental view of their children's usage of their phone. Apple has pretty much killed most of those products and put those features into their core operating system. Again, if you don't control what you're at, and I'm not suggesting you're going to go out and build your own Apple App Store, but I'm saying when you look at OpenAI and when you look at Anthropic and you look at all the different marketplaces that are out there using AI, this market's moving really, really fast. All right, so let's talk about specifically using AI. When you code and you call the APIs that are at Amazon and at OpenAI and at Anthropic and so on, that's an ecosystem, right? Those APIs are not going to really go away. But again, you are dependent upon them. Now, a lot of times, one of the questions I like to ask startups that use AI is how quickly could you move from OpenAI to Anthropic or Azure or a private LLM? Now, the really good companies who understand engineering will code agnostically, right? They're going to be able to swap that out. But people who are really dependent upon not only the AI services of a certain cloud vendor, but also the infrastructure of that cloud vendor, they're kind of stuck. And if they get backed into a corner one day, they can't get out. There's no on-prem version. There's no version that I can export to DigitalOcean or somebody else's a private cloud of my 5,000 NVIDIA GPU clusters and things like that. So the more you use that stuff, the more you're locked in. But another risk is there. This market's moving so fast and the technology is moving so fast. Unlike Apple, the Apple analogy of the phones or the open source phones, if you look back in the day, we always had releases in Nessus and Snort, but it wasn't like this dramatic surprise. Right now, when you go to an OpenAI conference or the Anthropic conferences, what they introduce next could change a society, right? The tech is moving so fast. And if you're going to start a company and you're going to build on that tech, you can really be outclassed. And if you don't know exactly what's coming, and it could be an NVIDIA hardware breakthrough, it could be new APIs that these cloud vendors are offering, it's really hard to do that. And as a potential investor, let's say I saw a company that was the world's best gift to cybersecurity, but it was based 100% on API calls to OpenAI, I still might be a little suspect of investing in something like that, because what is OpenAI going to release next? Is their base product going to include those sorts of things? Now, another thing we have with the OpenAI and the Anthropics is you're kind of locked into the cloud. And even though I'm recording this in 2024, there's starting to be a sense of where is my data and who has access to my data, and can I send these data sets to the cloud? And it's one thing to code against the APIs of like ChatGPT, OpenAI, Anthropic, and so on. It's another thing to use the AI services directly from the cloud infrastructures of Azure and Google and whatnot. Now, a lot of times when you're coding like that, you have a lot more control of the data, who can see it, where is it encrypted, and that sort of thing. But for a lot of organizations, some big financial organizations, they're literally not putting certain data sets and queries in the cloud, which is basically means you have to have an on-prem version. And these on-prem versions, they could be, full servers, they can be containers, they can be private data centers. It has to have provenance control by their customers to do that. And I'm seeing a lot of really, really good AI companies who have no roadmap to go on-prem because they're totally dependent upon these cloud offerings. Now, that's fine, but that limits your total addressable market. It limits potentially somebody acquiring you who might want to be able to control that stuff. And these are things you need to weigh in. Now, the last comment I have on investing in AI is a lot of times we say, what is your intellectual property? And there'll be a lot of hand waving is that, hey, we have a proprietary data set, we have proprietary logs, we have proprietary images, and we're going to use that stuff to train the AI to do better detections. I think a lot of people have heard these stories before. A lot of times when I actually get under the hood of these particular types of companies, and especially cybersecurity companies, and I say, like, what is your detection process? How do you classify what is good and what is bad? A lot of times it's a yes/no answer from the AI algorithm, and it's not something that you can engineer. And when I say engineer, I mean tune false positives, I mean turn certain detections on or off. Anybody who set up a SIEM, an intrusion prevention system, even an endpoint EDR, and had to tune the alerts in their SOAR product, they have to be able to look at that stuff and classify that. And from an assessment point of view, if you're trying to count vulnerabilities or count MITRE attack framework omissions that are out there in the enterprise, you really need to have a comprehensive solution to look at that. And just trying to say that AI does that, it's tough. Now, personally, when I've seen anybody who's doing, in cybersecurity at least, anybody who's doing a monitoring, an attack simulator, that sort of thing with AI, I always ask them, how many checks do you have? What are you doing? What's your data set? What did you train on? And it's really, it becomes very, very proprietary very, very quickly, and it's hard to really quantify that. And the engineer in me is very suspicious of these things. And I know this, I might be old guard here, but my feeling is if I had petabyte of data and it was malware, or petabyte of data and it was logs, and I was training an AI on finding certain things, I'm going to want that AI to tell me what is the schema, what is it exactly looking for, because I'm just going to build an algorithm then to go look for that thing. And the number of times I've been pitched, let's just talk about anomaly detection systems, whether it's in authentication logs, NetFlow logs, web logs, that sort of thing. The number of times I've seen anomalies come out of AI products where there was no understanding of like regression statistics or any types of the models that you can do to find anomalies. There's a lot of good math out there for that kind of stuff, or even telling me what fields in a protocol people are looking at for anomalies. A good example is, imagine you have web logs. You have the IP address, the DNS address, the geography of where the person came from. Did they go to other sites? You could come up with so many things in your schema, and then have the AI train on that to do that. A lot of times, I'm just not seeing the people describe how they're using AI in a specific enough manner, kind of for me to get excited about. All right. So having said that, clearly we have AI in our portfolio companies at Gula Tech Adventures. And we're just going to kind of go through a little bit of them right now. If you haven't been to our Gula Tech Adventures website, it's gula.tech. There's a portfolio page, and we list all the different companies here that we've been investing here. Some of the companies are all in on AI, and some of them are not. So for example, a good one here is Conceal. Conceal's got a web browser plugin, and it uses AI. They have an AI that they call Shepherd, Sherpa, that tries to decide where you're going is good or bad. And this is done after doing some threat filtering. So it's a combination of like AI and threat filtering, which is more of an engineered approach. If you compare that to Pixum, Pixum's a very similar type of web browser plugin, but their focus is 100% on phishing using computer vision, looking for logos on websites that shouldn't be there, right? You think you're logging into Microsoft, but it's really, somebody's S3 bucket, and they've done a clever job doing that. A couple others I want to mention. So Halcyon. Halcyon uses AI to detect all forms of ransomware. And a lot of times I'm really negative on AI to look across broad cybersecurity sets, but what they've done is they've narrowly focused on just the ransomware problem. So rather than trying to train an AI to do keystroke logger detection, exploit, they're doing just ransomware families. And this works out really well. They're quite effective at doing that. Another one's probably worth mentioning is StartLeft. StartLeft uses AI to work with programmers such that when they're committing, when they're doing their commits for their code, it's actually going to give them feedback on the security of the code through this gamification type of interface. Now, that's all using cloud API resources, but that's a really effective use of that technology. All right. So once again, investing in AI, the main points. Look, if you're using AI in your product and you're adding it as a feature, you're fine, right? Your core product just got better because you've added some better features for it, right? But if you're using AI to be your core product, you have to remember that other people can use it too. So how do you differentiate? How are you going to control cost? How are you going to how are you going to answer questions about what is your intellectual property? Now, those are the two main points. Use AI, but if you're going to base your company on AI as your core problem of how you're solving, remember that 5-slide pitch deck, this is really the key questions you're going to have to answer. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Ron Gulick. I hope you guys have a great week. Have fun starting those AI-enabled tech startups.